Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Bet365. My name is Dave Woodrelli. I am joined by Harmon Dial. Our producer is Jake Frazier. So we should say right off the top, backup Jacob, as someone in my DMs called him today, is producing. And that means no Family Feud. We're going to play Family Feud tomorrow on Friday. Regular Jacob Lazar, he's away today, but he'll be back tomorrow. So we'll be doing Family Feud tomorrow. I'll say that right off the top because there are people, and I don't even blame you. It's fine. I know the Canucks are a lost season. We still appreciate you checking us out. I've had people that told me, I only watch your Family Feud episodes. And they said, to their credit, there's two people that fall in this category that at least I've met. And they both said, like, oh, I listen to the whole show. I just don't want to listen to Canucks, related conversations. Canucks Conversation. I don't want to listen to stuff about the Canucks. I'm not even watching the games, but I still listen to Family Feud. So we appreciate that. But for those of you that fall into that category that just wait for the Thursday episode, because that's when we normally do Family Feud, not happening today. I should also say Jacob's not taking the day off. Jacob just has other stuff to do. Jacob's got Jacob wears a lot of hats, as does backup Jacob as well. Jake, are you okay with backup Jacob? Because you are teaching me how to skate, so I feel like I owe you. If you don't like the nickname, we won't call you that.
I'm fine with whatever.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, we've got a lot to get to. The chat is bumping early, so let's tell everybody about our Super Chat charity partner, the BC Mental Health Foundation. If you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by spreading breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. All right, a 5-2 loss for the Vancouver Canucks in Vegas. They go into the Olympic break on a 3-game losing streak. Losers of 17 of their past 19 games, Harm. It's bleak for the Canucks. We know this. We've been talking about it a lot. I'm excited to not talk about games for a while, but we've got one more game to talk about. And I have a couple takeaways from this game. Elias Pettersson scores a goal. Looks good. Elias Pettersson gets gets rocked at the bench. Hands go up in the face. Young guy down on the ice, hurt initially. Zero response from the Canucks. And don't worry, we're going to talk about Gavin McKenna more today, but zero response from the Canucks. We were tiptoeing around it in the past, right? The thing where DeBrusk said, oh, well, no one saw it. The hit from Rust on Besser at the end of the game. We said, okay, that's fair. No one saw it. It was right in front of the Canucks bench. Everybody saw that. Where the hell is the response? That is so bleak. That is so... We don't care about winning. We don't care about each other. We don't care about the crest. Rick talked. Oh my. Anyways, I'm talking too much. This bothered me so much.
Yeah, I was shocked in real time. First of all, that there was no penalty on the play. Right, he gets his hands up right in DPD's face, and then also just watching it live, you immediately knew that that's a dirty hit, especially on one of your younger players who, yeah, as much as DPD can take care of himself physically, he's the guy that is usually sticking up for other teammates, and he's still a young, inexperienced guy that Keegan Colasar in that situation, that's a pretty dirty hit. And for there to be nothing, I'm not even saying, again, the bar is low at this point. I'm not even saying somebody's got to go immediately jump Colasar and fight him. I understand that, especially for, I think Blueger was on the ice, Hronek was on the ice. Those guys are going to the Olympics. I can understand them being a little bit careful with themselves physically in advance in the last game before the break. But as you said, it happened right in front of the bench. And we saw DPD in a lot of pain when that happened. Thank goodness he happened to be okay. But the fact that there was no response at all later throughout the game, no cross checks, nothing. Like, you're 32nd place in the NHL. The least you can do is stick up for one another. And this is a concerning trend, not just because of, we've seen this happen at points this season, but remember very early in Elias Pettersson's career when he'd sometimes get hit and then it'd be a topic of conversation that no one's sticking up for Pettersson back when he was young in his rookie year. So this has been ongoing for the organization for a long time.
Where's the heart? Where's the passion It's just missing. It's missing, and I don't want to hear about you got to keep these vets. You got to keep all these vets. I don't want to hear about it because, like you said, DP is the first guy in there for literally anyone else. Literally anyone else on that team. Doesn't happen for DPD. And yes, there's a lot of people talking about Gavin McKenna at a time like this. We're going to talk more about Gavin McKenna. We've got some updates. We've got some stuff to talk about when it comes to Gavin McKenna and the situation that kind of unfolded on yesterday's show. We'll talk about that. But further on this game, Harmon, I do want to put a ball on this rather quickly because we're going to dive into mostly what Teddy Blueger had to say post-game, because I think Teddy Blueger agrees with me to some extent about what I'm saying about where is the passion and where is the heart. The goal where Mitch Marner just absolutely undressed everybody on the ice with the simplest stick handling you've ever seen in your life and just walked the puck right in and then found who was on the back door? Was it Dorofeev?
I think it was Dorofeev, yeah.
Yeah, that goal. All right. For all the moaning about Adam Foote's system, do I need to bust out the whiteboard to explain to everybody that the system that Adam Foote's drawing up isn't, hey, when the puck's coming towards you, just keep backing up. Just let them get as close as you can. If you bump your goalie, don't worry about that. Just keep backing up no matter what. And don't worry about guys that are sneaking in on the back door. Just keep backing up. Only keep your eyes on the puck carrier and just zero in on that, but don't actually attack the puck. Just keep backing up. Like, that's a skill issue. What are we doing here? And Tyler Myers is on the ice. P.O. Joseph's on the ice there. What are we doing? Like, what are we doing? It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It feels like Groundhog Day with a lot of the defensive breakdowns. I'm going to pivot for a second to one of the only silver linings from this game, just because it depresses me to over and over again talk about the defensive breakdowns. And I get it. It's a tank year. I'm not going to lose my mind that they're awful, right? We want them to be 32nd place. Speaking of Blueger, it's been nice to see him, Connor Garland, and Liam Ogren look fun and effective together. And that line, again, spent a lot of time in the offensive zone, control possession pretty well. Teddy Blueger now up to 7 points in 8 games since returning from his injury. He's a tick over 50% in the faceoff dot in that time frame, which matters because as we're talking about Blueger as a marketable asset ahead of the trade deadline, a lot of contending teams, when they're looking for depth centers, sure, the offensive production is going to be a nice bonus, but they're also going to be looking at, is he winning his draws? Because that's where some contending teams have weaknesses. And when we talk about adding defensive specialists and depth down the middle, teams love centermen who can win draws because they know, hey, we can trust this guy in the defensive zone to take faceoffs for us, to kill penalties for us. So as much as I like the offensive production, it's also important that he's been holding his own in the faceoff dot. And just to provide some context, if you look near the bottom of the league at some of the teams that have struggled the most in the faceoff dot this year, there are a lot of teams that are set to go to the playoffs. The Sabres this year are the worst team in the faceoff dot, below 45%. They're going to the playoffs. Minnesota is at 46.4%. They're 31st in the faceoff department. You look at Tampa at 29th. You look at where's Colorado? Colorado, are they somewhere? Actually, Colorado's better than expected. They're 9th. But the point being, there are some teams, LA at 23rd, and they're going to be looking for extra help down the middle after having traded Philip Deneau. Not necessarily saying these teams specifically will want Teddy Blueger, but as we highlight his offensive production, I'm glad that he's also excelling in some of the details of his game as well, which contending teams are always looking for.
Yeah, and you hope that the Canucks trade him. That's going to be a big topic of today's show. It's the subject of our poll question, which we'll get to in a second. I have notes from last night's game, but now in the moment, I don't have energy to talk about Elias Pettersson. I don't. But Elias Pettersson looking invisible is another takeaway I have. It's just getting frustrating. It's just getting really frustrating. And we're going to read some quotes from Teddy Blueger. And I'm not going to... I wonder who people think he's talking about when you hear these quotes from Teddy Blueger. We're going to get to it. Let's just do it now. Do you have anything else on the game that you want to say?
Let's get to the quotes.
Thank God. All right, our next segment is brought to you by our friends at Pacific Blue Cross. Win the ultimate Canucks road trip. Get Pacific Blue Cross travel insurance for your chance to see the Canucks on the road, complete with flights, hotel, lower bowl tickets, and more. No purchase necessary. Contest ends February 28th, 2026. Open to residents of BC only. Enter now at pacificbluecross.ca/Canucks. All right. Teddy Blueger last night in a one-on-one conversation with Sportsnet's Ian McIntyre had a few very interesting things to say, and it was good. I liked it. Love hearing this from Teddy Blueger. This was what he had to say. These are the quotes courtesy of iMac. We're not playing for nothing. You've got to have some respect and appreciation to be in this league, some respect for your teammates to play hard every night, regardless of the standings. The whole idea of like tanking and building for the future, when you play meaningless games like this, no one's learning anything. You've got to dig in, try to compete, and win every game. We can't get deflated and just stop playing when things aren't going our way. I think we've got to find some character in our group. I know we have some good guys that want to win and know how to win and to compete and play hard, but I think we've got to find it as a team. Just find, probably some respect, some more respect for each other, some appreciation to be in this league, and not take that for granted, not just go through the motions because we're last in the league, come in and compete. I mean, I'm kind of sick of talking about it. We probably don't have enough character as a group to dig in those moments, and we just kind of get deflated too easily. No one can change that except for us. So we've got to take some more responsibility, more accountability for each other, just play hard for each other. We're not really doing that consistently enough. And when we go against a team that knows how to win, it's even more difficult. Who do you think he's talking about, Harm?
A lot of guys that have been here for a long time.
I can name one.
He certainly falls in that bucket.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm starting to get really frustrated about it. I'm starting to get real frustrated, Harm. I'm starting to get really frustrated. And this is the thing that people need to understand about Teddy Blueger, because this Canucks team is obviously, when you think of this Canucks team, you think of a lot of mediocreness, right? You think of a lot of guys that have never done anything in their careers, never won anything, the country club atmosphere. That's what you think about, especially the guys that have been here for a long time. But think about Teddy Blueger's timeline, right? He's on those Pittsburgh Penguin teams that every year, hell, even this year, are challenging for the playoffs, they have the goal of playing for the Stanley Cup. They've got Sidney Crosby, all that sort of stuff, okay? He comes up in that organization, all right? Then he's flipped at the deadline to, the Vegas Golden Knights, who did what? Went on to win the Stanley Cup. Then he signs in Vancouver as a free agent. He plays 68 games. He's a huge part of that line with Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua. Hey, that trio right now with Liam Ogren playing the Joshua role, that's looking great. We'll talk about that later, maybe. But the 23-24 season, Canucks make the playoffs. They're a contending team, all that sort of stuff. Then last year we all remember it as being not so great, but the Canucks weren't out of it by January. By February, we were still having conversations about them trying to get it back on the rails, trying to find a playoff spot. He's part of that team. Then he plays 2 games this year, Harm, gets injured, and look, those 2 games, I picked this team to put up 100 points in the standings this year. Maybe Blueger wasn't as optimistic as I was, but he was still part of a team that had intentions of competing. Then he gets hurt, and he comes back, and the whole room's on fire. The whole house is on fire at this point. And he comes back and says, this is the standard? What's happened in the time I've been away from this team? And we know what's happened, but I love that Blueger's having these thoughts and saying them publicly, especially for a guy that could be, probably knows he's on his way out the door in terms of getting traded at the deadline. He's the next obvious trade candidate, kind of like a Kiefer Sherwood. Has the heart, has the passion, right, to come out and say something like this when it would be so easy for him to just coast, be a quote unquote good teammate, keep the noise down and just coast the rest of the season until he's traded. That'd be easy for Blueger, but he didn't do that. And I really, really liked that. I liked all these quotes from Teddy Blueger.
Yeah. And it's meaningful because it's not just him. Literally, what was it, 2 weeks ago, Adam Foote basically said the same thing and insinuated that, hey, this has been an issue, not just this season, but for a while with this core group. When you have multiple people who have won at the NHL level, and Foote, we don't have to go through his list of accomplishments as a player in this league. that's pretty scathing. It tells you that this isn't just one person's interpretation of what's gone on for this team. And it's important to clarify as well. It's not about, hey, you're losing all these games. Was anybody complaining a couple of games ago when there was a stretch where I think 5 of 6 or 6 of 7 of their losses were 1-goal games? No one was complaining then, right? And again, I understand when you're asking to tank, when you have a poor team on paper, no Quinn Hughes, you're going to lose most nights, and it can't be a 1-goal loss every single night. But also on the other end of the spectrum, there have been way too many blowouts, and it starts with these lulls, these call it 5-minute segments of the game where they just stop playing. And really, it was like the first period, they actually came out and held their own really well. I was impressed, and things opened up in the second period a little bit, but it was still a 1-goal game heading into the third. And then they just, I don't know what happened in the third period. There were the 2 goals, but also how many other scoring chances there were after the second Vegas goal of the third period that made it 5-2, less than 30 seconds later, there was another grade A opportunity that Vegas could have scored to make it 6-2. And
I saw a lot of coasting there. I saw a lot of coasting on that play.
You just have these stretches of the game where, for whatever reason, guys seem to kind of give up. And when you look at how many times this year has Adam Foote said, oh, we're a young team, and sort of saying, oh, we're going to make mistakes, referring to the defensive side of the game. When I went back and broke down most of these goals against, there was one where the young guys, I think it was the Cole Reinhardt one in the second period. It young guys involved in that one.
Yeah.
But the other ones, the Jack Eichel 1-0 goal, who exactly is David Kampf covering in the slot, right? Jack Eichel is wide open. There's no other Golden Knight in the area. That's a vet making a mistake. You already talked about the Dorofeev goal where Marner basically waltzed his way to the net front. That was Myers there. That was P.O. Joseph there. The 3-1 Ivan Barbashev slot goal. Kampf loses the puck behind the net. Joseph is a pizza up the middle. Barbashev's not covered. That's on the vets. And then the Alex Holtz 5-2 goal. It's Hronek makes a mistake chasing behind the net, but it's also Garland diving in to try and prevent the wraparound inexplicably rather than protecting the slot. Like it didn't make any sense for Garland to literally fully extend himself and dive to stop a wraparound when, hey, there's a guy wide open in the slot. That should be your defensive responsibility. And so as much as the coaching staff refers to we're a young team, young guys have made mistakes, game like last night, it's mostly the vets making the mistakes that led to goals against.
Yep. And how many times have we said that? Like, it wasn't just last night. And I know you weren't saying like, oh, this is an anomaly, this is just last night, but it goes to the broader point of why we have issue with this. And like, there's people, I get it to some extent. There's people in the chat like, well, don't you want them to tank? It's different. Like, you can lose, but we don't want you to look lost. We don't want to see a lot of what we saw last night. We don't want to see no pushback. You can still lose and have a backbone when your rookie defenseman who sticks up for everybody gets punched in the face, mushed in the face, whatever you want to say. Whenever that happens, you can have pushback and still lose the game. Like that's not what we're saying. And we just want to see some heart. We want to see some passion. Try.
To me, it's not even about what happens on the ice necessarily. It's when you hear this front office speaking about wanting to keep some of these veterans around, like it's about that. It's about the big picture of, are you sure you want these vets around?
Yeah.
To that these guys are so essential and they've won so many things in the league that they're going to be the ones that are going to be admirable role models for the likes of Liam Ogren and Zeev Bouillon and Tom Verlander. To change the culture over, you got to start moving out some of these vets that have term left, not just the pending UFAs. And that's going to be the biggest, I think should be the biggest priority for this team over the next 6 months to begin that process of turning this over. And just understanding that, hey, the guys that have been here for a while, there's a lot of scar tissue from all the losing from the fall of the last core. And so I think it is important to turn the next page, and not about trading every vet that has term left, but to start digging in at least a little bit. And I don't want to keep repeating myself and go on and on about it, because we've mentioned it many times on the show before. But for me, when we express this frustration and we talk about and we react to Blueger's comments in this way, it's not about, well, why are you getting blown out? To me, it's more, okay, great. This should expedite the process and make you more motivated to want to sell some of your vets. And I really hope their posture isn't, we've heard a lot of reports that, oh, the Canucks are listening. But there's a difference between taking the posture of, we're listening, but you better blow us away for an offer for Connor Garland, for example, or for Jake DeBrusk. There's a difference between that and taking a posture of, hey, we're open-minded to anything, and we're proactively trying to get off of some of these commitments before next season. You really hope that it's the latter and not the former, which the former would be much more of a passive process.
Just a couple things. There's some confusion in the chat that we're talking about, like, we want to see them close out the season strong. Like, they've lost 17 of their past 19. They haven't gotten blown out and given up and looked awful in all of those games. They've still gone down as losses. Like, just try. We want to see some effort. And again, like you just said, we want to see some vets moved out. We want to see the page get turned here. Because look, Teddy Blueger's comments last night, do you think he's talking about the young players' harm? Do you think that's who that's aimed at? I don't think so.
Yeah, nothing to add there.
So come on, like, give your heads a shake. All right, we got a super chat here from Spat Silly, regulars in the show. This is what he said. He said, all of a sudden, Blueger sounds like toxic talk it. Jim Rutherford, ship him out. We're going to talk about trading Teddy Blueger. Let's do it. Let's get to our poll question, which is brought to you by Hurley and Levelware. Golf is kind of having a moment right now, and not just in the traditional sense. What used to feel buttoned up has opened into something way more cultural. You're seeing athletes from all kinds of pro sports getting into golf, basketball, hockey, football players, even surfers, using it as a new competitive outlet, a way to hang out and just enjoy the game differently. That shift is exactly where the Hurley and Levelware collaboration comes in. Hurley brings that laid-back board sports energy, and the collection pulls inspiration from Hawaiian and coastal prints, relaxed, expressive, and rooted in lifestyle. Levelware takes that inspiration and brings it to life through performance-driven, sustainably made apparel that's actually built to move and play. The result is the Fairwaves collection, modern golf silhouettes that feel lighter, more wearable, and less rigid. It's respectful of the game's roots, but definitely not stuck in tradition. The collection is live and available on Levelware's website to shop. Go to levelware.com. Check out the polos, hoodies, hats, and casuals. We'll say this as well. Got my eye on this on Levelware. They have an MLB collection. Some of the Mariner stuff, I got my eye on it. Catch me on the links. Wearing my Levelware this summer. Although I'm going to start going soon. I played one round already. Played like crap, but going to play some early spring golf. We got nice weather today. All right, our poll question. Pull it up, Jacob. Our poll question. Would you like to see the Canucks re-sign noted leader? Now, you heard last night's comments. Teddy Blueger. I put this out and I said, okay, there's no way. Like, this is going to get... Obviously, everyone wants Teddy Blueger traded, and people are going to get mad that we're even suggesting re-signing a pending UFA, but that's not what we saw. 37.8% of voters said yes, re-sign Teddy Blueger if the cost is low, and 62.2% said no, trade him. Where do you come in on this, Harm?
I think they should trade him. He's 31 years old, and this is the trap that people, including this front office, has often fallen into, where when a player is performing well, they want to keep him, they want to extend him, they want to commit to him instead of ever selling high. And then when that player ends up struggling, then they want to get off that commitment. And then that's when they're trying to get rid of that contract or that player. We saw that with Andrei Kuzmenko, for example. And to me, it's awesome that Blueger's been more productive lately, but ultimately you also have to keep in mind that he's shooting 26% right now on the season. Individually, he's on a mini PDO bender. right? So be careful about how much stock you put into his recent success, because there has been a bit of good fortune mixed into what he's done so far. And you're hoping as well with the center market that I think this is a different conversation now for Blueger in terms of his trade value and what you're hoping to get from him compared to, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks ago, when at that point he'd only played 2 games that year. You had no idea how he was going to look coming back, whether he was actually going to look like himself or look more like David Camp, for example. And with that in mind, I was thinking, oh, they're probably going to have to settle for less than what Blueger went for at the 2023 trade deadline as a rental, which was a 3rd-round pick when Vegas acquired him. Now, all of a sudden, with how well he's playing, a 3rd-round pick feels somewhat realistic as a potential return for him. And even if it's not a 3rd, at least you should be able to get a 4th-round pick for him, which, again, 2-3 weeks ago, that wasn't a guarantee, because if he had come back and was looking like Camp, I imagine there wouldn't have been nearly as much interest in him. So to me, this team needs more assets. They need more draft picks. I would like to see him dealt for an asset.
RE45 in the chat said, we can't continue to buy high, sell low. You kind of said that as well. Neon Tiger in the chat said, Harm's bang on with that point. If there was ever a time for this management group to show that they can sell high on a player, it's this season. They've done it with Sherwood, but they got to keep it going and accumulate as many assets as possible. We can't do this again. Maybe they'll re-sign this pending UFA. The conversation we started to have with Sherwood when those reports started coming out, we can't do it. We can't have this conversation. There's no reports out there that they want to re-sign Blueger. It's just that A, it doesn't feel like something that's that far-fetched, and B, 37% of voters said they would re-sign Blueger. So it's not just us, it's not just like everybody agrees with us. And I recognize that, but everything you said and more, there is no way that I'm looking at re-signing Teddy Blueger. 31 years old, man.
Even for me at this stage of the season, winning, of course, isn't a priority. For me, this should be for the rest of the season, especially once you've hopefully moved out at least a couple pending UFAs and maybe a vet with term. It should be about gathering information about what exactly you have within the organization with some of your younger players. And to me, specifically with Ratu, right? Especially on the other side of the Olympic break, we're expecting that Marco Rossi's return could come sooner rather than later. And when that happens, you're going to be back in another situation where you've got a lot of centers. And to me, I want to know, like, by the end of the season, you should know what you have in Ratu, right? I think you've got to test drive him with significant minutes, with significant ice time, and one way or another, figure out whether you believe in him as a piece for the future, or if you think that, all right, he's maybe too slow or doesn't have just overall enough skills outside of his face-off winning ability, and we still have other question marks around his game. Well, then by next offseason, then you should make that determination and then flip him for something, rather than just, there's no point having him in and out of lineup the entire time and then letting his asset value depreciate the older that he becomes. You should use this opportunity at the deadline to get off of Blueger, to move Camp for anything you can, right? Even if it's future considerations, I don't care. Just open up the lineup opportunity, see what you have in Ratu. Maybe you don't have anything there. That's a possibility, but at least him being a big body and winning draws, and last year down the stretch, he showed some glimpses, and his AHL track record's decent. I at least want to give it a look before I write him off as a player.
I'll say this as well, because the argument for keeping Blueger is like, oh, veteran leadership, and look at the quotes he just gave. Those are great. You can find those on the open market. You can go sign Teddy Blueger in free agency. And I mean, you might be able to actually sign the Teddy Blueger in free agency. But what I'm talking about is you can go find those veteran leaders that can help you carry the culture. You can go find them in free agency. Hell, they found Teddy Blueger in free agency. It's not like he's been here for years. And anyways, you can go find these guys in free agency. Not to mention, you could get creative. And if you say you have a roster spot, hey, Montreal, you're not very happy with Philip Deneau? We'll take the final year of that contract off your hands for pennies on the dollar or whatever, right? Like, and again, I know we had this conversation yesterday, but you can go find those guys. And this is a great chance for this team to sell high on a guy in Blueger. And hell, even if you can't, like you said, opening the roster spot, if it's a 4th round pick, like what I don't want to hear is trade deadline day. Patrick Allvin comes in and says, well, it was unbelievable. They only offered us this for Connor Garland. Nobody offered us anything great for Teddy Blueger. And we just held on to everybody. That's not what you want to hear. And that can't be what this organization does. So anyways, I'm not going to get preemptively upset about it, but just to make sure we at least planted our flag pretty firmly in the camp of you have to look to trade Teddy Blueger. All right. Anything else before we get to anyone else?
No, let's move into it.
Let's do it. Anyone else is a presentation of our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. Greta's got the big game this Sunday. It's going to be packed. There's going to be giveaways, prizes, and more for the big game. It's going to be a lot of fun. You've got the arcade, you've got the bar, you've got the street food menu. Greta's a great spot. Make your reservation, gretabar.com. Greta Bar, YVR, 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right, did you see Leon Draisaitl's comments last night? Speaking of comments,
yeah,
this got a lot of play, and we're not going to play the whole video, but basically what he said was we need to defend better in front of Tristan Jarry. Evergreen, they're always asked about that. But he called out his teammates, notably. Well, he also called out Tristan Jarry to some extent because he said like there's saves that our goalies need to make, which is like the most the nicest way to call out a goalie, I think, right? Because I agree with that. But most notably said it starts with the coaches, talks about the team needing to be prepared. The one that's getting a ton of play is this league is too hard to just lollygag through games and try to get winning streaks going. You need everybody. It starts with coaches, everybody. You're never going to win if you have 4 or 5 guys going, and it starts at the top. We can be better. Our leaders can be better. We'll take the break and regroup. What'd you make of this?
I had TSN Sports Center on after, and this was before the clip went viral. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, whoa, especially it starts with the coach's part. And you could see even later when he reiterated, it starts at the top. He was careful to bite his tongue and not again mention the coaches because he didn't want that blown out of proportion. But clearly it's like the Oilers are in a really interesting spot where overall, once you account for their OT losses, right? You lump the OT losses and regulation losses. They've literally lost more games than they've won this year. They've got 28 wins and 30 losses on the season. And I understand the Oilers have historically been a team that they get off to these awful starts in the first half of the season. And they turn it on in the second half. But this iteration of the Oilers has more holes and weaknesses than usual. The top 9 forward group isn't as deep as it used to be, right? They lost quite a few of those wingers in the offseason and some of their other bets, right? They went heavy on Savoy and Ike Howard, Mangiapane. Mangiapane hasn't worked out. He's been in Chris Knobloch's doghouse. And Savoy and Howard are young guys. They're still figuring out the league. They haven't become consistent difference makers. And so you've got a situation where Kapanen plays consistent top 6 minutes for them. So they've got holes. They've got holes at every meaningful position almost, where up front, I think they need to add middle six help. On the back end, like Darnell Nurse has been the worst version of himself. Where before you could say, at least he's not worth his contract, but can he at least play at a second pair level if he's got the right partner? Man, he's been abysmal. And so the blue line in the overall defensive play has been problematic. And then the goaltending, they paid quite a premium to make essentially a lateral move and swapping out Skinner for Tristan Jarry, a guy who was on waivers literally a year ago, and no one wanted him or his contract. So especially looking at how strong the Central Division is this year, right? I don't think there's still a chance that Oilers can turn it on, and with the elite talent they have, they can beat Vegas. They did it last year, but it's coming out of the Central. Whoever gets out of there, whether it's Colorado, whether it's Dallas, whether it's Minnesota, who has recently had their number. I don't I don't view Edmonton being in the same tier as them yet. We'll see what they do at the deadline, but there are some question marks there.
One other thing I found interesting about Draisaitl's comments post game was when he was kind of asked about this idea that, oh, well, you guys always turn it on in the playoffs. Like, does it feel like you can get back there? And he was like flabbergasted. He's like, no, we're not even close. Like, that was the quote, was like, we're not even close. We're a different team. We're not even close to as good as we were last year. Like, that really stood out to me.
Yeah, and of course, you have to take some of this reaction with a grain of salt because players are upset in the heat of the moment and your emotions can sometimes get the best of you. But yeah, that was as blunt, fiery, frustrated, upset, whatever you want to call it, as you're going to see Leon Draisaitl.
All right. Did you see the report about the Seattle Kraken and Artemi Panarin?
Yeah, I did.
My Kraken, man. What are you doing, Artemi? Why don't you want to come see us rise? Could have thrown out the first pitch in a Mariners game. Anyways, whatever. I'm not salty about it. The report was from Elliot Friedman, and it was that the Kraken offered Panarin a contract extension that had a higher AAV than Leon Draisaitl, and talked about it being in the 5-year range. 5-year, $45 million. What? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I look, I'm not totally shocked because we've seen with some of these higher profile Russian free agents, they like to go to certain markets, whether it's New York, LA, the Florida teams, not all Russians, but they like their big market cities. And certainly with Panarin, we saw when he said nope to Columbus that he prefers and is particular about where he wants to play and the lifestyle that comes with that city. I'll also say this, it's especially notable because Seattle is a no tax state. There is no state tax in Washington. And so it goes to show when we have this discussion around, oh, players love going to the no state tax markets. Well, it's not quite that simple. What makes Florida, Tampa, Dallas, for example, so attractive as markets to play with is they got the no state tax, but they also got the desirable weather where there's sunny markets, and they're proven winning organizations that are in the playoffs every year, go on deep runs. Whereas the Kraken, sure, they have the tax advantage, but the climate is a lot rainier and the city isn't as glitzy and glamorous. And let's be honest, they've been a mediocre franchise, even though they got state-of-the-art facilities and an awesome arena, an amazing practice facility. Let's be honest, in terms of on-ice success, they've had very little of it. So, yeah, it's tough, especially because Seattle and LA, before the Panarin trade was made, were sort of similar in terms of their profile, where, all right, they're defense first teams that try and grind out low-scoring wins. They got forward depth, but they so desperately need game breakers. This is going to hurt them, not only in terms of we could have had Panarin, but also he goes to a divisional rival in LA that you're currently competing for a playoff spot with.
Any other league-wide headlines you wanted to get to? I really want to talk about this McKenna stuff.
I wanted to mention the hit on Charlie McAvoy.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that last night?
Yes,
it was a blatant elbow to the head. And I don't know what it is where the Panthers seem to just be league favorites and don't catch a lot of league punishment, where even in preseason, remember when the Lightning and Panthers were getting into all sorts of shenanigans? Those games were getting really dirty, tons of reckless hits thrown. The Lightning were the only team that faced significant punishment from the league. And even back then, I was flabbergasted at how did Florida get away scot-free when you actually watch the events of those preseason games unfold, and you would say there's equal blame to be had on both sides. And the Lightning were furious about that at the time, as they should have been. And then last night, Panthers-Bruins game, you had Sandis Flemanis. I hadn't heard of this guy before last night's game.
That's not a
Fourth
real
liner
person.
for the Panthers. Clear elbow to the head of Charlie McAvoy, right? And it almost looked like he left his feet to make that hit too. The crazy part about that is only 2-minute minor penalty. And then on top of that, because Boston was assessed a 2-minute roughing penalty and because they got an unsportsmanlike conduct for chirping the refs, the Panthers somehow ended up on the power play. Like how does that work where you got a guy throwing an elbow, a no-name call-up guy at the other team's star defenseman? He's down in a hunch, and thankfully McAvoy came back later in that game. He was all right, a guy that's going to the Olympics. But how does that hit happen, and then your team ends up on the power play?
Mm-hmm. I don't have an answer for you. Did you see Alan Walsh tweeting about it and the George Peros Kangaroo Show?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, Alan Walsh starting to grow on me a little bit. I'll be honest. I didn't really like him much before. I still don't really like him, but I do like some of his tweets. I'll say that. It's a bit of a clown show. Like, it's a bit of a clown show what's going on. There's no standard, and yeah, I don't have much more to add. I thought for sure there would be something coming for that hit, especially given the fact there was no penalty called on the play. And that's what's silly to me is if there's an injury, then maybe, like, if McAvoy leaves the game, has to miss the Olympics, maybe there's supplemental discipline, but it's almost like, oh, he came back, he's fine, it's okay, nothing needed. That's a weird standard to have.
I'm just shocked how that wasn't 5 in a game right away. I just baffled how that's a 2-minute minor penalty when you're trying to get headshots out of the game.
Yep, 100% agree. 100% agree. All right, can we talk about McKenna now?
Yeah.
All right. So, multiple reports break yesterday. And remember, I'm going to use the word reportedly, allegedly, all sorts of stuff. I'm going to use all sorts of words like that over the next little bit. But some news, reports. Some reports broke about the reasoning behind Gavin doing what he did. And we still don't know the extent of what he did, right? Like, he still committed a crime. And we're going to stick with the facts and go through the process. But the report suggests that there was a guy making some rude comments toward Gavin's mother, reportedly. And Gavin didn't take kindly to that. They all tried to diffuse the situation, walk away. And the report I saw was that the guy waited outside for him and then continued the comments toward Gavin's mom. And Gavin took matter in his own hands and then committed a crime. And we don't know exactly what happened. Guy has a broken jaw, lost tooth or something, maybe multiple teeth. I can't remember exactly what I read, but put me down for Gavin McKenna first overall. I'm just going to say that. Like, no, I'm not joking. If this is actually what happened, you got to be smarter than that. He's an 18-year-old kid. Like, he's absolutely got to be smarter than, you can't go around assaulting people no matter what they said. But I'm not sitting there and be like, oh, what an awful character. I would never want this guy on my team. Like, if it's a different story if he's, underage drinking, right? If he's walking around the bar shoving people and saying, I'm Gavin McKenna, what are you going to do about it? Obviously a different set of circumstances. But if it is the alleged story that his mom is who he's coming to the defense of and that she was taking it from all angles from this guy, like, of course. I don't know. I don't have much problem with a person's character if that's what's behind it.
Yeah. Now, of course, huge caveat that he has to get through the legal part.
Yeah.
Hopefully without any major consequences. But if that happens and if the alleged story is true, then yeah, I'm right there with you where, okay, when you're Gavin McKenna, you got to show, yeah, I understand you're going to need to mature and understand that, hey, you're going to the NHL, you're going to be a star, and you taking matters into your own hands like that physically is not the answer, no matter what people are hurling at you or your family members. And especially as a high profile future draft pick and future potential star in this league, people can't know that it's easy to get under your skin. Otherwise, you're just going to be in trouble all sorts of time. There's no question that you don't want him to be involved in a situation like this where he's being charged with, pretty serious crimes here. But at the same time, if that's the reasoning, that's a lot more defensible than other potential circumstances. And that's at least something where it's okay, he's young. Can we work with him? Can we help him mature? And it wouldn't be nearly as big of a red flag.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm trying to say. And like I'll say this as well because the police affidavit came out actually this morning. Actually this afternoon, excuse me. This came out like an hour or two ago, so I'll just read this because it's some more information. The police affidavit about the arrest of Gavin McKenna says he was allegedly caught on video punching a man twice in the face, resulting in surgery for a fractured jaw that needed to be wired shut. McKenna is facing charges of aggravated assault and simple assault, harassment, disorderly conduct from the alleged confrontation on January 31st. We already talked about that. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah. The police complaint filed on Wednesday says McKenna allegedly engaged in a physical altercation by punching another male in the face twice, which caused serious bodily injury. The patient, the affidavit says, had fractures to both sides of his jaw and a missing tooth. The patient was in substantial pain and could hardly speak. The patient had two friends in the room with him who were both witnesses to the assault. It says the two friends identified McKenna as the person who allegedly punched the victim following an exchange of words between them and the group of people that McKenna was with. The friends recognized McKenna due to the fact that he's on the Penn State men's hockey team. The affidavit says the friends could not remember exactly what McKenna was wearing at the time of the assault, but knew he had on a backwards hat. The friend said that the alleged assault took place in front of a parking garage, and the officer was able to review video footage from street cameras that he says show McKenna throwing two punches at the patient's face, which caused him to stumble backwards. The affidavit says, that the injured man underwent surgery on Monday, and his jaw will remain wired shut for about 2 weeks, unless further medical intervention is required. All right. That kind of damage from two punches is crazy. Like, and I'm not trying to be like, oh my gosh, look how strong Gavin McKenna is. Like, did the kid fall? Like, did he knock back and hit his head on concrete or something? Because like both sides of your jaw, I don't know. Like, again, I'm not trying to make light of it. Like, you know, I was kind of making jokes earlier, and I know we made jokes yesterday about it as well. But like, that's a ton of damage. And that's the thing. Like, in all seriousness, the biggest kind of reason that you don't go around assaulting people is like if you hit someone in the wrong spot and they go crumbling to the ground, like you could kill someone, even though you just punched them. You could kill someone. And again, that's why I make it clear that like you can't go around just assaulting people. But also, I'll say this, and I'll let you get to what you want to say about the affidavit in a sec. But I'll say this as well: the era of social media, especially, people have gotten way too comfortable talking crap about people and just expecting no repercussions for it. Like that's also true. Both things can be true.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. Is I think people feel they can say whatever they want, and this should serve as a lesson that if what he said about McKenna's mother was true and he's hurling insults and whatever, like you talk smack like that, eventually you're gonna get hit by somebody.
What's the saying? Talk bleep
get hit.
But also, I'll make a new saying: if you're the projected first overall pick, do your best.
Yeah, no, seriously. Like, both things
people.
can be like. I just if that story is true, I feel no sympathy for the victim, but it is still a situation where you're a projected top 2 pick going to the NHL. You got to be smarter than that. You cannot lose your cool. You cannot be going around punching people, and you got to smarten up.
You think Gavin McKenna would have defended DPD last night? I think so. Again, I wasn't even trying to make a joke. It's just people in the chat are saying that as well. Yeah, like you said, both things can be true. And I don't know, man. Like I said earlier, if the story that's coming out and that's getting reported is like, oh, Gavin McKenna was at a bar, underage drinking, and then he started beefing everybody and he's starting fights, like, I don't know, man. Okay, I'll just say this. This is now, aside from the McKenna story, and I say this as, you know, like I didn't go around bullying people or anything when I was a youngster. But it was always taught to me, like, my dad grew up in Manitoba on a farm, played hockey his whole life, all that sort of stuff. It was always taught to me, like, you never don't start fights, but you always are okay to finish them. Like, that's always okay. And I'm not saying that that's what McKenna should do. It's just that, I don't know. Like, I understand within the context that, like, yeah, if you're talking smack, like, sometimes you're gonna get it. Like, sometimes you're gonna get it. And I'm not condoning what McKenna did, but I'm just saying through the lens of another NHL team, right? Like, when I'm doing those interviews, and that's the story I'm told, rather than, yeah, I was 18, I was dumb, I had alcohol, I was doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing, and yeah, like, again, even in that scenario, you're like, okay, well, people make mistakes when they're 18, whatever. Even in that scenario, you might be okay with it, but you'd also be like, okay, like, that's a really bad show of your character, that was something you were doing at 18. But man, I don't know. I think it really does soften the blow a lot for McKenna and just what this could mean for him long term in his NHL career and everything. Like I said, those draft interviews when teams are like, what actually happened that night? If that's the story, rather than what I just said about, like, oh yeah, I was underage drinking, I did this and I shouldn't have done it. Like, that helps you a lot.
Yeah, and I just hope there isn't too many legal complications that he runs into, because again, after coming back from the World Juniors, he was on one. He was really leveling up, and to have all this noise surrounding him, and I mean, before these charges were filed, I was leaning back towards McKenna over Stenberg. And as a pure talent, to me, again, I think McKenna and Stenberg are pretty clearly in a tier of their own. I know others may disagree. I really think, especially with the organization's need for game-breaking offensive talent, that you hope that the organization will be able to land one of those two guys. And my only worry is you can't really predict what's going to happen next in terms of how this unfolds, and you just hope that it doesn't.
February 11th is the next development in the story. That's when he has his hearing.
You just hope that it doesn't put him in a position where now all of a sudden he's struggling down the stretch, and there's even more reason for a team like the Canucks to maybe be skeptical about taking him, when really on talent you should be all in on taking him as a top 2 pick.
I gotta be careful with what I say, but something someone said to me yesterday. This is someone else saying this. I know I'm saying it, but someone texted me and was like, Kevin Bieksa quite famously broke someone's jaw, and that was a teammate, and then he got an NHL call-up right away from it. Again, they're not the same situation. They're at different time periods, and it's different context, all sorts of stuff. And I'm not excusing that Gavin McKenna committed a crime. Like, people need to remember that it's a crime. You got to be smarter than that when you as high profile of a person as Gavin McKenna, but it's at least worth mentioning that as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. He's back. Yeah, I have him number 1 on my draft board. I had it before this. I know Stenberg was there shortly yesterday, but I don't know. We'll see what details come out, right? We'll see what details come out. And I am Don B makes a good point about the BX thing, right? He said that was a teammate, and the teammate asked him for the fight, right?
Yeah.
Not exactly comparable, but anyway. All right. Anything else from either of you?
I think I'm good.
All right. Let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Honestly, I forgot there was NHL games on tonight. I'm so ready for this break. But yeah, this is our bet of the day. We are taking looking for a home underdog. Oh, I don't like that home underdog. All right, we're gonna go Islanders money line. Islanders are on the road. All right, Islanders are on the road in New Jersey. It's a toss-up between the two teams. Islanders minus 110 odds. You can get that over at Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. All right, some programming notes really quick at the end of the show, okay? Tomorrow, Friday, we're going to play Family Feud, and then Monday, we're going to have our last show before the break, and then I'm going on my honeymoon. We're all taking some time off, and then we're going to come back on, what did we say? The 19th? I don't know. Jacob will confirm it for us when he's back, because, yeah, 19th. We're coming back on the 19th of February.
Wait, so are we doing a show next week, Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's our last one. Yeah, we might have a special guest on that show, but we'll see. Anyway, Wales in the chat said, "Are we not talking about yesterday's bet? What did I bet yesterday? I forgot. What did I say?
I forgot as well.
Damn it!
Let's see.
And see, Jacob's not here to tell us because he sometimes remembers. What did I? It was a basketball bet. Oh, Chris Paul. Did you see Chris Paul went to the Raptors? That's huge for them.
Oh yeah, because I'm sure he'll report there and will play.
Oh, is he not going to?
No, he's not. It literally said as he was traded, he's not required to report.
Oh, I thought Chris Paul was really good. Oh, he's 40. Okay. Wow. All right. I said Capitals win. Did I call Caps win yesterday? Capitals.
Did the Caps even play yesterday?
No. I don't know what people are talking about. I don't remember what it is. All right, whatever. I don't remember what the bet is. So, yeah, we're not going to talk about it. We'll close it out there. For my co-host, Harmon Dial, and our technical producer, Jake Frazier, my name is Dave Drilly. Thanks so much for the episode of Canucks Conversation.
Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.